Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mid-Morning Show. I am your host, Jason Subik. The phone number is 518-843-2500. And this is WCSS 1490 AM radio, 106.9 FM. I want to welcome everybody to the Tuesday morning show. I've got Heather Knott with me as well. Good morning,
Hello.
Heather. Let me do the disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on WCSS are those of the hosts, guests, and callers and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, the Cranesville Radio Network, or other hosts or advertisers. The content of each program is the sole responsibility of its producer, which in the case of this show is myself. Some interesting stuff went on yesterday in the world of news. Some tragic stories and some unusual stories. I'm going to start with sort of the tragic story. This is something that was involving James Glorioso Jr., who had run for Montgomery County Sheriff last year. He was on the beach, I guess, in Pennsylvania, I think it was, or somewhere out there. And he, I guess, he saw somebody who was drowning. He tried to save a man who was drowning. The man had saved his child's life from drowning, and Jim had seen him, I guess, struggling, and went into the water to try to save the guy, and he couldn't do it. He pulled him out of the water, but then the man, I think, died of a cardiac arrest. Just kind of a sad story. I think that, I talked to him yesterday about this. He was talking about how this particular beach was not very well marked in terms of when the lifeguards would be on duty. There was no sign warning people away from it, that kind of thing. And I can just say from my own experience, having been a lifeguard, I was a lifeguard for about 6 or 7 years. Summers I did that. I did beachfront. I did different places. And it's not safe to go swimming if you don't have a lifeguard. You should have somebody there to help you. A lot of people think that they're strong swimmers, but then they get into a bad situation, and if you don't have help, it's drowning is an easy way to die if you don't have somebody to help you in that situation. Glorioso, he did go into the water to pull this guy out, but ultimately was not enough to save him. And I talked to him, I guess, briefly this morning. He said he was going to call in and talk to us. The phone number, again, is 518-843-2500. And if anybody wants to talk about that issue or the dangers of swimming sort of without a lifeguard or some protection, that's a topic worth discussing. The whole time I was a lifeguard, I only had one save. It was in the Schenectady City pool system. I had a kid who jumped into the deep end and sunk like a rock, and had to get in there. And there was another lifeguard who also sort of arrived at the same time as I did, so it was like half a save. That's on my record. Okay, but we were able to get him out of the water, and it's important to treat those situations as serious situations. Now, a situation that went on that was pretty unusual yesterday in Schoharie County was this situation with the buffalo. 75 buffalo, I guess, are missing from a farm that was keeping these buffalo. And this is a crazy story to me. I don't know how you lose 75 buffalo.
Yeah, the Boston Globe actually reported on this as well. And I want to say I was searching for I swear that this did happen 10 years ago, too. I'm not sure, though. I couldn't find anything on the internet about it, but I'm pretty sure this is not the first time that this has happened in Schoharie County. I want to say that the last time it happened, it was a farm in Richmondville. I'm not sure if it's the same one or if it's something different, but I am pretty sure that this has happened before. Yeah,
and so I guess they were reported having escaped on July 25th, and according to Steve Cook's story today on the front page of the Gazette, sightings have been seen reported as far east as Mill Pond Road in the town of Schoharie, and as far west as the Pleasant Brook in the town of Roseboom in Otsego County. So these buffalo are ranging far. I don't know.
That's what they do.
That's what they do, and I don't know that much about buffalo, but I know that they're like a faster version of cattle, right? And so they're out and about now, and I'm going to be trying to make some phone calls on this story today to see sort of where that story is at and whether they've caught all these buffalo that are out there. We've got a call coming through. Let's take a call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Jason.
Hi.
First of all, the buffalo that were they were down by Skodak.
Okay.
That broke free, and they got on the thruway. But the ones that broke free in Schoharie,
Yeah.
If they make it into the mountains, they'll roam free. Because if they can go from there where they are now, they can go right into the mountains, and they can migrate right into the Adirondacks.
Interesting.
And into the other mountains right there through Cherry Valley and that. And they'll break up into smaller herds because the male buffaloes will, or the bulls, I would say, would segregate certain cows and take them with them, just like regular cows would.
Interesting.
So if they get into the deep woods, but from what I understand, they're grazing in hayfields, and because that's what they love, green.
Yeah.
So if they get in the alfalfa and that, they'll be able to find them.
Yeah.
The thing is I hope they don't do what they did when they were on the thruway, and they shot them all, and then they just disposed of their bodies.
Yeah.
They didn't even try salvaging the meat or anything.
Interesting.
They just shot them and disposed of them.
Well, I'm glad that you're giving me that background. That's something I will ask when I'm making calls on this today to see what has happened. It just seems like a crazy story that you could lose that many buffalo. 75 buffalo is a ton of buffalo.
Especially that long.
Yeah.
You know, well, if the farmer had them in a good acreage, like, look at some farmers put out their beef cattle in 60, 70 acres of land, and it's got trees in it and grass, and they don't check on them daily. They have other chores to do. They're baling and they're milking and they're doing other things also.
Yeah.
It's not illogical that they weren't found right away. And I'm telling you, it would be nice to have buffalo roaming wild, because they're a docile animal for the most part.
I've never seen a buffalo up close. Yeah, I've never seen one up close, and that is, I don't know, it is definitely intriguing.
I have in South Dakota.
Yeah,
and then we can have moose season and buffalo season.
Oh boy,
along with that deer season.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for calling. Yeah. Now, Heather, you're from Schoharie County. Now, did you know that there were people keeping buffalo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, and like the caller just previously said, this has happened before. And last time they did escape and they got on the thruway. I didn't know that end of the story, but yeah, it sounds like they were actually shot. So
Interesting.
That's pretty sad.
I don't know what goes into keeping buffalo and how it might be different than regular cattle.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether they have like dogs and stuff to help with that. I just don't know. I mean,
they are pretty docile, like the caller said. I have seen them, when I was out west, and they're beautiful animals. And as long as you don't provoke them, as far as I know, they're pretty docile. Yeah. So.
And now here's a question that I don't know the answer to. I don't know whether buffalo. I don't think buffalo are any longer an endangered species, and I don't know maybe they ever were. But I think they were maybe in danger of becoming one at one time, and now their population's been rebuilt to the point where that's no longer the case. But
yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's take a call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I saw in the paper today that we got some money for these zombie properties.
Yeah.
And when they showed a picture of this one house, to me it looked in better shape than some of the houses that recently went up for an auction. And so I was a little surprised by that. It wasn't sold, at an auction. I mean, the auctions, you don't really let people inside the homes. It's kind of like you see a picture, you look at the land and stuff, you make a determination, and it's, basically like pot luck, and then you got to put the houses up to code, make sure they're up to code.
Mm-hmm,
yeah. But I mean, I think it's great that, we're getting money for this, because, the people, still want to have a clean city, and people got tired of a lot of these buildings that that maybe ought to come down, or at least they think so. But that particular property, I see some other people that are living in homes right in Amsterdam.
You think are worse? Well, maybe from the outside. I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, just looking from the outside,
Yeah.
necessarily what's going on from the inside. I mean, it's possible that a building could look decent on the outside, but then have major problems on the inside. I mean, for whatever reason, some of these buildings are considered to be these zombie properties. And what you're talking about is a $150,000 grant that the city of Amsterdam got. This is from the state attorney general, Letitia James. This is from a $500 million settlement that New York State made with the Royal Bank of Scotland. So that's where that funding comes from. So, I mean, it's nice to see the city get some money to help turn around a property. Hopefully that will have a good end ultimately.
Yeah, I just turned on, so I heard the gentleman talk about this problem with the buffalo or so, like that they had. I read in the, I think it was in the Leader Herald, I think it was like a couple weeks ago, that the moose population around here is declining. And but I don't. Is it a real big of a problem if we had some buffalo around here?
It would be a real big problem if we had wild buffalo. I don't know. I don't know if it would or not. I don't know the answer to that. I mean,
well,
yeah.
Hopefully they won't kill the buffalo. Hopefully they'll catch it. Too many times that they kill the animals, and if I don't know what the population of the buffalo is. I know we try to protect some of the wildlife now, but it would be a shame if they just killed the buffalo.
Yeah.
They should try to make some effort to try to catch them and then bring them to a certain area.
Well, I'm certainly going to ask that question today when I am making calls on this, whether what the plan would be when they find them, and go back to this situation in Skodak years ago. The caller was mentioning that a lot of them were destroyed. So I will ask that question. We'll see what happens.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Phone number again, 518-843-2500. And I think we've got the blinking light here. Let's try the call. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Jason.
Hi.
Just real fast, when you're talking about the buffalo or bison, whatever they call them, I don't know. Our first experience, we're just small hick people from Galway, but was when we went up to move our granddaughter to SUNY Canton, way up past Paul Smith. They actually have them grazing in the field. You would think that they were cows.
At the college,
Yeah, it's just awesome. The number of fields that actually have, of course, they have a big, Paul Smith, and SUNY Canton has a big tech colleges. But that's an experience if you're ever bored and get nothing else to do for 6 hours. Take a ride up there. So.
Well, I would like to see one of these buffaloes, Yeah,
it's an experience to see them just, They don't look any different than cows, except they look different. I guess they don't act any different than cows. They just look a little different,
really? I would think that they would be faster. I would think that, but I don't know. I don't know the answer. And they're shaggier, but other than that,
shaggier. Their hair is a lot longer. Yeah. And they don't stand, I don't think, as tall as a cow. I think they're more broad.
A little more diminutive, Interesting.
Yeah. Totally different, but hey, you can buy bison in the local supermarkets. So
that's why they raise them. Yeah.
Supposed to be a good meat if that's what you like to eat. I guess
a leaner meat. That's what they say. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Take care.
All right. Thank
you.
All right. Phone number again, 518-843-2500. And I don't know whether James Glorioso Jr. is going to call us or not. He had said that he was going to. Just a tragic situation that he was involved in yesterday. And, I did talk to him, having tried to save that guy. And it is, it definitely breaks you up emotionally. I haven't been through it, but I know just that, first responders who are in that situation when the person ends up dying, it is traumatic. And so I don't know whether he's going to call us or not. He said he was. But we're going to move on to our next topic here. Now, we had talked about this a little bit last week, and we had actually held it for like a week. We had done some preparation on the topic of what the New York State Legislature had done with marijuana decriminalization. And it's actually more topical today because yesterday Governor Cuomo actually signed the bill. And so we're gonna do it again, and we're gonna do it better this time. So Heather Knott, you had done some research on this subject. So what happened yesterday, and what should people know about this?
Right. So Governor Cuomo signed the bill, and it's decriminalization. It's not legalization. So it's not like you can't buy marijuana, you can't grow marijuana. and you can't smoke it in public. So this is not legalization. I think that's the most important thing to know at the moment. Basically, what it did is it increased the amount of marijuana that you could possess, 2 ounces or less, and it won't be a criminal charge. It will only be a violation that is basically you get a ticket for it. The tickets are under $150.
Yeah.
So that's the general gist of this bill. And basically, there's some different underlying intents that we didn't really cover the last time about this marijuana decriminalization, and it's basically the legislator found that arrests and criminal persecutions and the criminal penalties were inappropriate for people who have been found to possess small amounts of marijuana, and they found that these people who were being charged and arrested were predominantly Black and Latino. And
also we're ending up with the convictions.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
So it's 600,000 people in New York State are saddled with arrest records for low-level marijuana possession.
Yeah.
But according to data from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services, it consistently shows that young white men are more likely than any other ethnic group to possess and use marijuana. So there's a huge discrepancy there.
Yeah. And this goes to a point that the Recorder did an article about this. It was on the front page of today's paper, and they interviewed different local officials. They had Montgomery County District Attorney Kelly McCoskey. It was talking about it, and she said that she was not a fan of this. And then she talked about how one of the things that she says is when she sees young people come through, as a district attorney, when she talks to them, these are people who've been charged, with different marijuana situations. She, what she'll say is that when teenagers are picked up for unlawful possession of marijuana charges, according to this this article, McCoskey said that she used to explain to them that if they are convicted on the charge, but if they are convicted and they plan on attending college in the future, they're gonna,
you can't get financial aid.
You won't get
That's one of the federal. That's one of the questions you have to check off on federal financial aid. Have you ever been convicted of drug possession?
So that immediately goes to the money question. Okay, so right then and there, and if you think that more affluent white kids are facing the same level of criminal prosecution for marijuana possession that poor Black kids or even poor white kids are going to face, you're crazy. So there is that disparity. That is a big part of this discussion.
Right, yeah. So there, underneath all of this, it's not so much that the legislator is responding to new cultural norms. It's more that they've taken a look at, these discrepancies in our legal system and examined them and kind of thought through what could they do to fix this.
And this is one step, and I don't know whether next year they're going to move towards the legalization or not. A lot of people think that they may try it again. We'll see. I mean, other states have gone that route.
Massachusetts has. So.
Right. I mean, we're basically surrounded by legal marijuana. Massachusetts, Vermont, Canada, but New Jersey didn't do it last year. Mm-hmm. And when New Jersey didn't do it, that kind of sent the signal that New York probably would not do it also. It kind of stalled the momentum. And I always ask the question, sort of, who benefits from the status quo? I mean, who benefits from keeping it illegal? And that's a question that I think should be probed. Let's take a call. Good morning, you're on the air.
Morning, Jason.
Hi.
Jason, it's very interesting that the white male is most likely to possess marijuana.
Okay.
That's what you said, correct?
I think that's what Heather's research showed, yes.
Yep, according to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services.
Yeah.
Because from what I understand, the holdup in passage of legalizing marijuana was that the Speaker of the Senate and the Speaker of the Assembly wanted some, concrete information on how that windfall of that money, that source of income for New York State, would be spent in the Black community.
Windfall of money. Windfall of what? Oh, you mean the tax revenues? Okay, right. The tax revenues, right, from legalization. Right. Okay. Well, I think I think there were a number of sticking points. I mean, they wanted the criminal records of people who convicted in the past to be wiped clean. There were a number. It was a package of things that were desired in this, and some of them were poison pills for some of the upstate senators.
Yeah. Well, you know, with decriminalization up to 2 ounces, and with pot legal in Massachusetts and Vermont, I can see where you're going to see, marijuana stores popping up close to the border.
Yep.
And people will be on their way back buying pot and bringing in less than 2 ounces, just like they bring in fireworks. And just like for years and years, people would go to Vermont because they could buy booze there cheap, or if they were in Vermont, it would be convenient to buy it and escape the New York tax on it.
Yep, and we because we had kind of joked about this before, like you're allowed to possess it, but you're not allowed to buy it or grow it. So where did it come from? I mean, so one place it could come from would be just you could be legal throughout the whole process. Okay, you could go to Massachusetts, legally purchase 2 ounces. Okay, then cross the border into New York, and then legally possess the 2 ounces. So you could be legal throughout the whole thing.
Well, it's not that it's legal. It's just you're
Well,
not going
just
to
a
get
violation.
criminally
Right,
charged.
you're right.
It's
So
not legal. You're just not going to get criminally charged for under 2 ounces.
So it'll be a violation, which is similar to a parking ticket
you
or
just
speeding
get it,
ticket.
yeah.
Yes. And I don't know how big the fines will be, but
So they're under $150.
under $150, yes.
Yeah, and I kind of suspect that at the places where it's legal, I think they have one in Williamstown now, in Massachusetts. I'm sure that there's somebody there noting the license plate numbers of New York State cars that are there.
You mean like sort of waiting to hit him with those fines, like a speed trap, like a marijuana trap?
Well, do you think it's possible, or do you think that's something that's science fiction?
No,
Do you
it
think that
definitely could happen. No, I agree with you. There could be somebody, there could be a state trooper waiting to nab those people. It's possible, but I mean, I don't know. It's going to be a lot of work. I mean, you pull one person over. I mean, then
Too, wouldn't you have to like search the car then? Like
yeah, right. You'd have to have a reason.
Sticky,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Although,
Yeah, well, if you were observed at the pot shop, that would be a reason, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether people end up getting nailed by that.
There's a lot to sort out on this.
Yeah.
But it was interesting that Mr. Smullen from Fulton County, had a piece in there about it saying that it's a violation of federal law. Now, if it's a violation of federal law, how are Massachusetts and Washington, D.C. and Vermont getting away with it?
Yeah, that remains a conflict that the federal law still prohibits marijuana, whereas state law in a number of places allows for it. And one of the areas where that rears its head is finance. You can't go to a bank that operates nationally and get money for your marijuana business in your state. You have to go through like a circuitous route to get to where the money would be, because it is still federally illegal. So that's one issue that does come into play. But I mean, mostly law enforcement is probably enforcing the state law rather than the federal law. You need a federal agent. You need like a federal marshal probably to be enforcing federal law. So that's kind of where it's at, I guess. I mean, if the states legalize, they just don't enforce that federal law.
Now, I have a quick question, if you wouldn't mind answering it. How do you feel about this on a community level?
How do I feel about it?
Yeah, how do you feel about it?
Well, I feel that everybody who wants to smoke marijuana already is smoking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't you feel the same way?
Yeah.
It's not like there's no marijuana around. It's been at SPAC since SPAC opened, and there's it's not enforced. Just like the fireworks laws aren't enforced. You know what I mean? So
I think you make a really great
point. If the laws aren't going to
point.
be enforced, why have them?
Yeah.
Well.
I think that's a great point. I was actually recently at SPAC and for the Fish concert, and yep, definitely you're absolutely correct there. So
yeah. So marijuana
things don't change, and like that's been going on there since they opened. I think it's 65 or 66 whenever they opened. And,
But there are real consequences to people who get convicted for these things. If you get convicted, like the 600,000 people who have criminal charges, you can kiss financial aid goodbye if you want to go to college. That's a big deal. And so there are
federal financial aid.
Federal
you can still
financial
probably get private student loans, but then those come with higher interest rates. So
well, maybe you'll get a scholarship from the Marijuana Growers Association.
Maybe
you won't have to worry about it.
It'll be your
that'll be your reward.
Jason, when you're doing your story on the buffalo, find out what the difference is between bison and buffalo.
Bison and buffalo. Okay, good point. Okay, thank you.
Goodbye.
Appreciate the question there. All right. Phone number again, 518-843-2500. The light is blinking. Let's take a call. Good morning, you're on the air. No, not that one. Let's try this one. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Jason. I had to call back once you changed the subject
Yeah.
of bison to
Yeah.
marijuana.
Ah.
I have a granddaughter who was born with a severe brain injury, brain unknown, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
She's the youngest one in New York State that was put on the medical marijuana.
Okay.
Now, we live 10 miles, it was a crow flies, to the Perth facility. My daughter and husband have to go every month for a while, every 3 months, hopefully now every 6 months, down to New York City
Right.
to get her medical marijuana.
Right.
There's a whole other issue with the marijuana that it's just not you smoke it, you get high, you want to eat. Yeah, that's a part of it, you know. That's a part of it. And if I choose to do that, that's my business. But, you know, the medical marijuana part is just forgotten so badly. She is so severely, she's 22 years old, she has the mentality of maybe a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, and this keeps her from having the drop down. She still has the drop down seizures, but it keeps her from doing it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I appreciate
There's a whole
your
other part of
sharing that
marijuana.
story. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is. We're going to have to go to commercial break, but that is certainly one aspect of this story. Thank you for calling in and telling us that. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jason.
All right, so we are going to go to our commercial break, and we're going to come back. And when we do, we're going to talk about a bunch of different things when we come back. We'll be right back after this.
1490 AM WCSS, serving the Mohawk Valley since 1948.
A place for mom.
And we're back. It's the Mid-Morning Show. I'm your host, Jason Subik. The phone number is 518-843-2500. And this is WCSS 1490 AM radio, 106.9 FM. Heather, do you have the Bob Cudmore tease for his Saturday podcast?
Yes. So this Saturday on Bob Cudmore's Historian Podcast on WCSS, Dan Weaver will be talking about his new book, and that is this Saturday at 8:40 a.m. on WCSS 1490 a.m.
That should be very interesting. It's been a while since I interacted with Dan Weaver. I've interviewed him before in the past. He's a bookstore owner. He does like to lecture me on social media about which streets in Amsterdam are named what. I did a big story about what the DOT was doing to different streets in Amsterdam. And New York State DOT has different names for some portions of streets than are known locally necessarily by Dan Weaver. And it was amusing to me because he was writing these messages on Facebook. He was on our on the Gazette's Facebook page talking about how I didn't know what the name of the different streets was. And then he was like I don't listen to his show, but on October 6th he said, and then on October 10th, and like he had like a detailed understanding of things we talk about here on the show, even though he doesn't listen. But anyway, he is an interesting guy. The phone number is 518-843-2500. You can call in with any of your comments, questions, concerns. We were talking about the decriminalization of marijuana, which is the new thing. It happened. Now, it's going to take effect in 30 days, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's going to be very soon. And there were some other aspects of this, too, right?
Yeah, so one of the other things about this bill was that it created a process for those who have been arrested for low-level possession of marijuana to go ahead and get their records clear. So again, that's just low-level possession. Obviously, if you were carrying a pound of marijuana, this probably doesn't apply to you, but it did start that process up for people. And like I said, there are over 600,000 people in New York State who are saddled with an arrest record for low-level possession.
Yeah,
so.
And it does have I think a disproportionate effect, as you said, on Black and Latino populations in terms of who gets convicted, and also anybody who does is going to face problems. You can't get financial aid, federal financial aid for college loans, that kind of thing. It's not a good situation. And I wonder, there were a number of groups that were against the full legalization of marijuana. The Sheriff's Association prominently was one of them. Jeff Smith was quoted in this article by the Recorder, talking about how marijuana is a gateway drug. And that's basically the kind of rhetoric that I grew up with, going through the DARE program, that marijuana is a gateway drug. Right. Try this, you're going to do this. So I think it's... There are some people that is the case, but I mean, I would also say that alcohol is the ultimate gateway drug. I mean, once you, that's sort of where everybody starts, and that's illegal for people under the age of 21 too. People do it all the time. using marijuana recreationally, to me, it's totally and completely analogous to alcohol use. All the problems, basically, that people incur when they use alcohol are very similar to the problems that they would incur from using too much marijuana.
Well, and there's already laws in place about driving high, like similar laws that we have for when you're too intoxicated, when you're too high. Like we already have those laws in place as well, so it kind of makes sense.
Well, the one issue with driving intoxicated with marijuana is it can be a little bit harder to test, rather than the breathalyzer.
It's definitely not a perfect system.
Right, and that's a flaw that people have raised and have talked about on the show, and I get that, and in some of the states where they've legalized it, they are seeing those issues. To me, I just always think about the heart of the question is whether prohibition is the best policy for dealing with it. And it's not that it's like a great thing for people to do. Okay, it's just that people have a desire to use this thing, and is it really worse than other legal highs that we do allow? For example, alcohol. Let's take a call. The board is lit up. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Jason.
Hey, this is James Glorioso Jr. Jim, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Now, I hate to put you through this in terms of the facts of this thing, but this was, can you take us through the story of what happened with you, starting with where it happened and what happened?
Yeah, so it was in actually Atlantic City, New Jersey, down on the beach. We were there the last 2 days for Courtney's birthday, and I was actually out metal detecting. It was about 9:30 in the morning, so fairly early. I was underneath the pier, and a woman ran up to me and asked me to run to the other side of the pier and see if there was a lifeguard on duty because there was 2 people drowning. And so I ran over, checked, there was no one there, came back, and sure enough, I mean, there was, I saw the 2 of them far out. And so at that time, it so happened that the kid made his way back. The son, which the father went out to save his son because he saw his son was getting pulled in the riptide. Yeah. And when the son was coming back, a lady said, "I got a boogie board," and I just took the boogie board and went all the way out. And unfortunately, by the time I got to him, he was already, face down, floating. And
really, that's terrible.
Yeah, it was tough, and I did CPR, but it was extremely difficult to do in the waves and the.
You were doing CPR in the water? Yeah.
Yeah, it's impossible. It's something that's not even. No. I tried because I knew he was. I knew there was an issue, and I realized very quickly that I was getting swept out just as fast as I think this guy was, and so I tried to pedal back, and I got a new appreciation of the ocean, and that's why I wanted to call and talk about this because when you're on vacation with your family, you don't think about where lifeguards are, if there's any on, and how.
I do. I always think about where the lifeguards are.
You might.
Yeah, because I used to be one. Yeah, I know.
The reality hit everybody on the beach that morning because everybody was scrambling, trying to find a lifeguard and an officer, and everybody realized there was no one around. And nobody realized it. Yeah. Because they don't get on until 10 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
And so it just so happened, Jason, I got really lucky because I started realizing I'm like going 5 feet forward and 10 feet back with this guy on this tiny boogie board. And thank God, the 3 or 4 lifeguards that were coming on duty at 10 a.m. heard what was going on, and they ran down there and they came out and got both of us and pulled us both in. But unfortunately for the father, I mean, he had passed in front of his whole family. It was terrible,
Yeah, no, that's a very tough situation. And, I commend you for going in it, which is very dangerous. And the thing that you did do that was smart was to have that boogie board with you as a flotation device, because that I can just tell you that is part of the training of a lifeguard. You want to have something like a flotation device. I mean, there's training that lifeguards go through to deal with a person who's drowning, even if you don't have that. But it's very, very dangerous to try to save somebody who's drowning because they become very strong and very powerful, and they can pull you down. And as you say, when you got to him, he was already face down. But having that flotation device is really the key to trying to do it if you don't have the training. And I don't know whether you ever went through. Did you ever go through any kind of lifeguarding training or not? I mean, it sounded like you were smart enough to know to do that. So.
No, I didn't. And I'll be honest with you. If it wasn't for that boogie board, I'd be dead. Yeah. I'd be dead because when I was trying to come back, I was exhausted. I mean, it was so hard. And so you underestimate. You underestimate how powerful the ocean is. You really do. You don't appreciate it until you're in that situation. And as a warning to anybody going out to these beaches, for the summer, just obviously be aware of what kind of lifeguards are on duty, what time to get there. But boy, don't take it for granted how powerful that water is, because it blew my mind away in that situation. It's life-changing.
Yeah, it is. And, I know it's, because I talked to you about this yesterday a little bit, and I know that it's definitely emotionally traumatizing to be involved in a situation like that and somebody dies. But you did your best, and I commend you for trying, and you tried in a way that was smart, that at least kept you alive. So, tough situation, but, I appreciate your calling in and talking to us about it.
Yeah, no problem, Jason. I'll talk to you another time. Take care.
All right, thanks. All right, so that was James Glorioso Jr. talking about a situation down in Atlantic City. Man drowned, and just sad story, and just I guess a warning to everybody to respect the power of the ocean, respect the power of water, and try to only swim when there's lifeguards around. I know that people like to do it, whenever, but you have to be very careful, because drowning is a threat that can reach anybody, and it's one that sort of sneaks up on people. Phone number again, 518-843-2500. And we were talking about marijuana decriminalization. Do we have anything else, Heather?
I think that just about covers everything that was in the bill as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, just again, it's not legalization. I know I've heard a couple people kind of conflating the two. It's not legalization, so
still get hit with a fine.
Right, yeah. Don't go smoking pot in public. You will definitely get a ticket for that.
Yes.
So just be aware, it's not legalization, and it is still criminal to do.
All right, the phone number again, 518-843-2500. You can call in about any of the topics that we have talked about so far today. The board is lit up, so let's take a call. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Jason.
Hi.
And Heather.
Good morning.
There are many local people using marijuana.
Yeah, that's true.
You've got people in the medical profession, business profession, legal, law enforcement, and politicians.
Yeah. Education also, but okay, yeah.
It's not like it's not being used.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
And I see nothing wrong with it as long as it's used properly.
Right.
Right.
Has many benefits.
Potentially,
It's almost like your CBD you're taking, Jason, only it's a little stronger.
It's actually cold pressed hemp seed oil, and they've discontinued the product, unfortunately. But you're right, it is derived from a similar source. We are going to have to take a commercial break, though. But I appreciate the phone call that you're calling in with. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. All right, so we got to take our last break here, and then we're going to go to Bradley Klein's going to come in, and he's going to tell us about the Amsterdam Mohawks. I think they're going into their last game, their last regular season game. So we're going to take this commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Raves and requests on 106.9 FM, 7 to 9 a.m. on WCSS.
And we're back. It's the Mid-Morning Show. I'm your host, Jason Subik. The phone number is 518-843-2500. And we've got Bradley Klein here from the Amsterdam Mohawks. Bradley, what is up with the Mohawks?
There's a lot going on with the Mohawks right now. They have clinched first place not only in the Eastern Division but also in the PGCBL. So that ensures that they're going to have home field advantage throughout the postseason, which is not only important, but it's also necessary for this team right now because they're really struggling on the road, but also they're playing very well at home. So they want to stay in Rao Family Stadium with the Mohawks fans in front of them, but right now they're pretty mediocre. I think they're 5-5 or 6-4 in their last 10, so they're kind of skidding a little bit. We haven't seen this from the Mohawks all year. Overall, they've been in that 8-2 in their last 10, 9-1, 7-3, that kind of mark. So right now, this is a different Mohawk team than we're used to seeing on and off paper, because on paper we're used to seeing guys like Ryan Cardona, J.D. Mundy, starters like Bryce Brock just left. All those guys are gone. So they've lost actually their best starter in Eric Sarantola, they've lost their best reliever in Ryan Cardona, and they've lost their best hitter in J.D. Mundy. And now I think that's all starting to catch up to them, because I kept on telling you throughout this whole process, all right, the Mohawks have lost all these key pieces, but they still have the best starting rotation, they still have the best bullpen, they still have the best lineup, and they're going to be fine. But all of a sudden, those bats have gone cold, They have a few holes in the lineup, and those holes are becoming wider and wider and wider, and they're becoming gaping problems for the Mohawks heading down the road.
Interesting. And now, don't they have a game today?
They do have a game today. It's against Socrates, and I would say the main reason that this game is somewhat important for both teams is momentum. Because if all holds, and it likely will, this is the first round matchup. So the Mohawks are now 6-3 on the year against Socrates. They'd like to build up some momentum. They just dropped a doubleheader against Socrates the other day, a few days ago. And so it would be nice to get some success going against the Stallions before they host them in the PGCBL first round.
And now, describe the structure of this playoff system. How does it work? How long are the series? How does it describe it?
It's very quick. So it's a 3-round thing. The first round is a 1-game playoff no matter what seed you are, and that's a bit of a controversial topic right there because the Mohawks have been the best team hands down throughout the season. They don't even get a bye, let alone a series to work through, so all of a sudden, boom, they could be one and done, and that's it. So
it's single elimination for baseball?
Yeah,
oh, that's tough.
Single elimination. First round is a 1-game playoff, and from there, it's a series best of 3, and there are 2 more rounds, including the championship.
That's a little bit more like what I'm used to. But all right, so that first round then is going to be the key, and it's going to be against this Socrates team that they're playing tonight, which they have not played well recently.
No, they haven't, and there are still a lot of balls up in the air how the Mohawks are going to play this game. Because remember, it's do or die. You have to win right there. The thing is, they just lost their best starter. That was still there.
Yeah.
Remember, he hadn't been the best starter all year.
Right.
But Bryce Brock left with an oblique injury, so he's gone. He's done for the year. And, to no fault of his own, that's just one of those things that happens. But nonetheless, the Mohawks are 1 starter short. So now they're down to like a 2-man rotation. And there's a lot of question marks heading into the postseason.
Yes, and that would be my number one question would be who are they going to start on the mound in the playoffs?
Well, there are some guesses out there, but I don't think there are any surefire answers right there. I think it also depends on how the Mohawks field the next few games against Socrates and then Glens Falls, those next 2, how they go into the postseason, who's fresh, who's not, and we'll figure it out from there. But the problem, the fact that we don't know exactly who's going to be starting, that's a problem right there. If the Mets, and this is a stretch, if the Mets were in the postseason and there was a 1-game playoff, we all know who's starting. It's Jacob deGrom. The fact that the Mohawks don't have that single guy, that ace, that's still here, that's an issue. Not only for the first game, but even if they make it past the first game, they need a playoff horse as well.
Yeah. And so tonight is tonight the last home game?
Okay. Last home game against Socrates, 6:45.
And then the last away game is going to be Glens Falls.
On the 31st.
Okay. So just those 2 games, and then they've got to go straight into those playoffs, and we don't exactly know who's going to be starting in terms of pitching. Now, let me ask you this. Is it still possible at this late stage in the season to pick up players, or no?
No, it's not. I think that has kind of... that threshold has passed, and the Mohawks picked up a few local players, and some of them have been really, really strong for Amsterdam. You have a kid just graduated from Shenendehowa High School. He's going to Stony Brook next year, and he's actually been phenomenal. A lot of local guys know him for throwing that no-hitter against Ballston Spa in 2018, but he's been great for Amsterdam, a bullpen guy, a reliever. Just made a start for the Mohawks. I think he went 4 innings, 2 runs, so a pretty serviceable start for a young kid.
Interesting. And so he's got to be like 18 or 19 then.
Yeah,
because he just
younger than I
high school. Yeah, that's right. Well, get used to that as you get into broadcasting sports, because pretty soon they'll all be younger than you. But the phone number 518-843-2500, and you call in and you can talk to Bradley Klein. We're talking about the Amsterdam Mohawks here as they go into the end of their season here and the playoffs, and they still have high hopes of winning a championship. Correct?
Absolutely. How can you not? I mean, let's take a step back and contextualize this. They're still the top seed, and one could argue they're still the best team, even though they're not the hottest team right now. The thing is, they have so many players. I keep on saying this. They have so many players that should be doing more. They have so many players that should be doing more, and it's kind of a head-scratcher. Why aren't they? Because in the baseball season, in school, in the spring, they're more productive. They're against better players. They're more productive, so that's a bit of a head-scratcher. There is an element of it's summer ball. So the players are here. They're working on a few things, but, it's summer ball.
Yeah.
But that's not the mentality that you want heading into the postseason. Remember, the Mohawks have that target on their back, and if they play the Stallions, the Dutchmen, the Diamond Dogs, everyone's going to not want to knock off this team.
What is the college baseball season? When does it start and end?
Well, it's a spring sport.
Yeah,
in
spring sport.
The
right.
NCAA. So.
Yeah. All right, let's take a call. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, I got a quick question. I was wondering if Brad was familiar with Garrett Whitley, Niskuna grad. I think he graduated 4 years ago from Niskuna, and he went in the first round of the Major League Baseball draft to Tampa Bay.
Garrett?
Took him.
And what's the last name?
His name was Garrett Whitley.
Garrett Whitley from Niskuna. Ring any bells?
No, not for me.
So is he in the minor leagues? I guess you're
Well,
asking
here's
us.
what happened.
Yeah.
Here's
Okay.
what happened.
Oh, you know what happened. All right.
He passed up a full boat to Wake Forest to play baseball, and he went in the first round. He signed a big contract and everything, and now he's in the Single A Tampa Bay affiliate. I think it's the Charlotte Crabs, and I'm thinking in retrospect, he's wishing he stayed in college or he went to college. He would have had that development also, and he wouldn't be left holding the bag like he is now.
Well, to play devil's advocate, that's kind of a big question that a lot of players face every year. The thing is, what's the signing bonus? This guy might have cashed in and you don't even know. An 18-year-old offered a few $1 million. How do you pass that up? Look, you can always go back to school whenever you want.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. And if your whole thing is money, then, and not the whole person, then I guess you would...
All right, we've run out of time. I appreciate the phone call, though. Thank you very much. Okay, Brad, thanks a lot for coming on. It's going to be intriguing to see what happens with the Mohawks as they go forward. I want to thank everybody for listening to the show. You've been listening to WCSS 1490 AM radio, 106.9 FM. We're going to head straight into the news. We'll be back again tomorrow. Thanks a lot.
In Mississippi, where a